Welcome to the Navigator's Compass, the podcast that takes you inside the world of career and technical education. We bring you the stories of the dedicated educators shaping the next generation of skilled professionals and take you inside the modern CTE classroom, where hands-on learning meets real-world success. From the first spark of interest to mastering their craft, competing on the big stage, and launching lifelong careers, we showcase the journey of students turning their passion into profession. CTE isn't just an education, it's the key to a future filled with opportunity, innovation, and success. So whether you're an educator, a student, or someone who believes in the power of skills-based learning, join us as we explore the people and programs making an impact in today's workforce. This is the Navigator's Compass. Let's get started. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Navigators Podcast, where we highlight the people of career and technical education in Anderson County. Today we have Mr. Jim Quick as our first guest. Mr. Quick is a 1987 graduate of Fulton High School. After high school, he served 8 years in the United States Marine Corps as a combat engineer. He was honorably discharged at the rank of sergeant. He's a veteran of Desert Shield and Desert Storm, where he was a detachment leader, a platoon sergeant. He also helped develop and lead training for combat, placed explosives and performed minesweeping operations, detonated and recovered anti-personnel and anti-tank mines. After this time in the Marine Corps, he served 26 years with the Knoxville Police Department as an investigator. He was post-certified for 26 years, was a gang and intelligence investigator, bomb squad commander, bomb squad technician, graduate of the FBI Hazardous Devices School, a violent crimes initiative coordinator. He's a founding member and former president of the Tennessee Gang Investigators Association. He's an original member of the Knoxville Police Gang Task Force. He's a former instructor at Walter State Community College, where he instructed on gangs, narcotics, basic investigations, and IEDs. He's also a former instructor at the University of Tennessee's Law Enforcement Innovative Center as a post-blast class instructor. He's a graduate of the UT Martin Educator Prep Program, and he's been serving as a criminal justice teacher at ACCTC since 2020. Jim's been married to Michelle for 5 years, has 3 kids and 5 grandkids. All right, well, let's get into it. So talk about, first of all, let's kind of start your origin story. Let's talk about before you were a teacher and even before you were in the Marine Corps and before you graduated high school. What teacher was most impactful to you and why?
So we had a lot of great teachers at Fulton High School, but if I had to narrow it down to one specific one, it'd be Coach Sharp. I think anybody who went to Fulton since the 70s knows Coach Sharp, probably had him at some point, and they share the same opinion. I mean, he just didn't take anything off of anybody. He pushed you to your limits and past it. He would, probably can't say it today, but you know, you fall asleep, you might get an eraser thrown at you. Can't do that today, I know. So, but I mean, just an amazing teacher, just the way he pushed you and he made you not accept mediocrity. So just great guy, great teacher.
So did that kind of help in your minds kind of set the mold of the kind of teacher that you wanted to be when you got into teaching? Or
Oh, absolutely. Not just teacher, but person. So I credit him and some of the other teachers there for making me who I am today.
It's awesome. It's great. So you graduated Fulton High School in 1987. I didn't mention it, but I know you were in NJROTC in high school.
Yes.
So talk about the transition from I guess going from high school to serving in the Marine Corps. Like, where did that thought process come in? Why did you choose that in high school?
So 4 years of ROTC. And I knew I always wanted to be the military in some form or fashion. My dad was in the Air Force, which is probably a good thing because that's where I met my wife. So in Oklahoma when we were 5 years old. So I knew I wanted to do something military, but I wasn't sure exactly what. So we're studying ROTC, and all the recruiters come in and talk to us, and it just seemed like the Marine recruiter was excited about being a Marine. The other 3 recruiters were just there. It seemed like a job to them, you know. One thing I remember was one of them came in with a pocket unbuttoned, and I'm like, yeah, that doesn't seem right. So, so yeah, he started talking, and of course he's in his dress blues, the best uniform ever, and he's talking about being a Marine, and basically, he wasn't looking for us, we had to look for him. So he didn't really care if we joined or not. If you wanted to be a Marine, you go talk to him and join the Marines. So I wanted to be the best of the best, so that's the direction I took.
Right. Once a Marine, always a Marine, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. So you leave Knoxville, and for those of you who don't know, if you join the Marine Corps and you're east of the Mississippi, you go to Parris Island for recruit training. So when you stepped off that bus, I mean, you're 18, right?
Yes.
So you stepped off that bus at Parris Island onto those yellow footprints, like way different than Fulton High School. So
Absolutely.
So what was it like taking those first steps into the life of being a Marine?
So there's two big moments in boot camp I remember the most: stepping off the bus, and then the first time you meet your drill instructor. So you step out, before you step off the bus, the drill instructor gets on the bus and he starts talking to you, and he's got this nice tone and everything's so calm and collected, and then all of a sudden this guy starts yelling at you to get off his bus and get on the yellow footprints. Get it, do it now, blah, blah, blah. And you're just, it's like, uh-oh, what happened? What did I do? And so we're all on the footsteps and getting ready to go into receiving and just start that journey. And yeah, so that was the first time it was like real, and then meeting the drill instructors is just crazy because you're standing there and the senior drill instructor's standing there and he's talking to you about what his job is and what the junior drill instructors are. And then he says, basically, they're yours, and turns us over to the junior drill instructors. And he goes in his hut and all heck breaks loose. Things start getting kicked around, and I was just like, oh, wow, this is crazy. So, but it was a great experience. I still have some friends from boot camp that I talk to, and that's been since 1987. So it's truly a family.
So first impression, you're like, have I made a mistake, or this is the place for me, or I don't know yet? I know what you didn't know?
I don't think I knew it was a mistake. I was just like, what is happening? Am I sure I wanted to do this? I'm not positive, but yeah, I mean, it calmed down, and then everything turned into a pattern and a routine, so it wasn't too bad. So.
All right, so you leave boot camp and then School of Infantry,
so no,
combat engineer,
yeah. So I would join in the reserves. So came back to Knoxville, then went to combat engineer school in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and then did that for I think 8 weeks.
So for people that don't know what a combat engineer does, talk a little bit about that. What does a combat engineer do?
So we do minefields, we do explosives, we do some light construction. I know we built a bridge when we were in combat engineer school. It's just a kind of variety of things, but mine sweeping, minefields, explosives, those are two of the biggest things that we did.
So that kind of sets the precedent, I guess, maybe for your career moving into work as a bomb tech. I mean, that was your first. Obviously, I'm assuming that's your first introduction to any kind of explosive devices.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Explosives are addicting. So anytime you can get paid to blow stuff up or keep stuff from blowing up is a great job.
So you served in Desert Shield, which turned into Desert Storm.
Yes.
Where were you, and how old were you? I guess when you. So you're what, 20, 21 when that kicks off, when you get deployed to the Gulf?
That would have been 21, yes, when we first left.
Do you remember where you were at when you found out you were going?
Yeah, like I said, I was when I was at home, 8-month-old son, going to UT, and then they said, you got I forgot how many days to get ready, get your stuff packed, and get ready to go. And that was different. You didn't think about being activated, but you knew it was a possibility. But yeah, it was a little sobering, but it wasn't something that I would say that I would try to get out of. I was kind of excited to actually do what you train to do.
Right.
Right. It's like practicing football, never playing a game.
Right. So it's game time. So you get deployed. So flipping to the other side. So that's your, I guess how it felt when you found out you were being deployed. When you finally, how did you get over there? Like a commercial flight? Was it a military flight? Like how was that?
So we flew over there on military. We came back on commercial. Which is kind of wild because you're on a Hawaii Air airplane coming back and you got M16s and you're dressed in your camis. So a little odd.
So during Desert Shield, where were you at?
Saudi Arabia, in the middle of the sandbox. I couldn't even tell you where exactly. It was just in the middle of nowhere. So we were just sitting there waiting, seeing what would happen and what would come next. So it was wild. Not a lot to do. So I spent my birthday there. So not a lot to do on your birthday.
Yeah.
Just sit around and play in the sand.
So
Train.
The desert of the Middle East is way different than East Tennessee. So what's that contrast like? I mean, it's warm in the south and you've got high humidity, but now you're in the desert. As a young guy, you're obviously in good shape, but what is that? It's just an experience, right? I mean, what was that like?
It was wild. I mean, the weather, unbelievably, it gets cold.
Yeah.
Especially at night, until you get later on in the year. But yeah, I mean, it's just, everybody had guard duty. You're training for your mission day after day after day, just to make sure you know what you're doing and you get better at it. And then guard duty's interesting, especially because you're sitting on top of your Amtrak in the middle of the night just watching for whatever, right? So, and then when the oil fires started being lit, it was absolutely pitch dark. You could not see your hand in front of your face. So you just sit, you listen to music, whatever. I think that's the first time I ever listened to Garth Brooks.
Yeah.
So sitting on top of an Amtrak in the middle of Saudi Arabia in a desert. So, but it was a unique feeling. And the night before we went into Kuwait, it was good. I've got a cool picture. It's like super sunlight behind us, and because of the oil fires in front of us, it's pitch black. So the picture is just a great picture. It's just such a wild contrast between the two areas.
So during that time, I know there was a big fear that Saddam would use chemical weapons.
Yes.
So you guys trained with hazmat gear a lot in the desert.
Yeah, for the first 3 days of
miserable,
the
right?
conflict, we were in MOP gear 4, which had the gas mask, the whole suit, everything. So,
And what is MOP gear?
it's our protective gear for chemical.
A lot of ventilation and air conditioning. And
Oh
those
yeah,
things?
it's awesome. It's
Yeah.
perfect, especially
Yeah.
in the desert.
Yeah. So Desert Storm kicks off, and where do you go once it actually kicks off?
So we staged right before the berms and the minefields and going into Kuwait, and then when it kicked off, we just went through the pathways and through the minefields, and just continued on our way. We stopped about 5 miles outside Kuwait City. They decided to let the Arab Coalition and the Kuwaitis actually go into the city and take that over. So kind of symbolic.
So how did your platoon or how did your element feel at that point? That you've pushed this far in and done what you're trained to do and what you're ordered to do, and then
we were fine. We understood what the thing. We're Marines. We do what we're told. So Actually have a little jail key from a Kuwaiti jail.
It's cool.
Goes with me everywhere. So
So talk about after that moving, because the air war started, it was a couple weeks long, and then the
Yes.
ground wars, and I don't remember, but I think it was the first time we measured a war in hours, ground operations. So getting to that finality that, we've done our job, we're going home. I'm going back to my 8-month-old son, but I guess he's
over a year.
yeah,
now.
he's a year and a half now, So what was that feeling like amongst you and your comrades in arms?
It was kind of wild because, again, sorry. Can I turn that off? It'll ring. It's in my ear. I mean, it's different because you're all alone over there, and you're, like I said, you're just training every day, and there's no responsibilities. In fact, I watched a movie not too long ago where the guy had been deployed for so long, and then he comes back, and his wife sends him to the store to get groceries, and he's looking at 100 different cereals, and he's just like, what?
Yeah.
So it's crazy going from being super structured to being, now I got an adult, and
Make my own choices.
take care of, your family and your child, and now you got to make big boy choices.
You told me a story one time about coming back on the flight, about a song that was playing. Can you talk about that? About what was about that, the significance, I guess, of that moment, and what that was like coming back into the United States?
Yeah, that was the first time I'd ever heard Lee Greenwood's "God Bless USA," and so we're on the flight coming back into the United States, and they're playing that song, and it's just like, that was just amazing, and you got like tears in your eyes because you're glad to be back home, and it's proud to be a Marine, proud to be United States citizen. It was an awesome thing. I still, I hear it today, and I still kind of well up a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
What was that reunion with your young child like?
Great. I mean, he was, like I said, over a year old at that time, and we've, we still have a very close relationship. So, and the wild thing about Desert Shield, Desert Storm is my dad was in it too. So my dad was in the Air Force, but he was stationed at UAE. So we'd write letters back and forth, and of course they'd have to come all the way back to the United States and come all the way back over there. So it'd take like 2 weeks to get a letter.
So he was in United Arab Emirates, and you're in Saudi Arabia.
Correct.
He would write you a letter. It would be sent back to the States.
Yes.
To get processed to come back to you.
Yeah, exactly.
What was the turnaround time like on that correspondence?
I was like 2 weeks at least.
Yeah. So you get back into the States. You've reunited with family. Or you know that you're done with the Marine Corps at this point, or?
No, I was still in for several years. I went to Norway. We went to several cold weather survival school, several different places after that. And then 1994 came, 93, and the police department opened up their hiring. And I'd always wanted to be a police officer since I was little. So I was like, yeah, this is going to be awesome. So I applied for the police department. At the time, you really couldn't do the reserves and police department at the same time, so I had to make a choice. So I got out of the reserves in 94 when I joined the academy at KPD.
So you had to go through the academy and get your post certification. Because we're getting really close into talking about like how you're impacting students, and this wealth of experience that you bring to them. So what is that experience like, going from, okay, you've left military, you're back to your civilian life, but once a Marine, always a Marine, and you take that stuff with you, and now you've joined KPD. What's the academy like, versus, maybe boot camp? It's a different doctrine, to serve and protect versus,
very.
Yeah.
So I thought the academy was fairly easy. I mean, yeah, you had a lot of new stuff to learn, but the physical stuff obviously was no problem because, they'd done it.
Right.
So when a lot of people were griping and they were like, "We're so tired," blah blah blah, I'm like, "This is really nothing."
Right.
And they're screaming at you, they're yelling at you, and I'm like, "This is not drill instructors. Come on."
So you're the guy. So you're the guy that laughs that gets everybody in trouble, right?
No. I maintain my composure.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I laughed on the inside and giggled on the inside. So, but one run I remember we were running out at Highway Park and we were doing a long run, and I'm near the front with the instructor, and he's like, "Y'all want to stop or keep going?" I said, "Let's keep going." And like everybody else behind me was like, "We're gonna kill you." I was like, "Oh, well, maybe we shouldn't keep going."
Yeah. So you start off as a patrol officer before you
Yes.
get into, criminal investigations, detective
So
work?
yeah, spent 2 years as a patrol officer working West short West Knoxville, which is Lonsdale, Western Heights, College Homes, some of those areas, and then. Just because we had gotten used to the gang members there, they decided to create a new gang task force. And so there were 4 of us, two from the east side, 2 from the west side. And so we ended up being able to start that new gang task force. And then from there, I mean, it kind of just blossomed. I worked gangs for most of my career, overwhelmingly. So worked forgery and fraud for a couple of years. But I always came back to gangs. Gangs was always what I loved to do. And then
Why is that? Why? What was that attraction of working in that environment?
I guess working the areas we worked on patrol, you just kind of got used to it and kind of learned some of the things about gangs that just I found interesting. So I got to investigate those, and then eventually got to teach communities, other police officers, schools about gangs, and it just seemed to be my thing, which is good because it kind of led me to where I am now.
So, as you're working in a gang unit, how does the bomb tech come about? I mean, because I know you served on the bomb squad, so you're doing, for people that don't understand, and especially in I would call Knoxville a mid-major city. I mean, it's not a New York, it's
Right.
not a Detroit, but it's it's not Clinton, Tennessee either. I mean, so when you have specialized units like a SWAT team or a bomb squad, you still have your day job, I guess, so to speak, because how did that work? How does that work as an investigator and being on the bomb squad or SWAT team, let's say?
So obviously, I wanted to be a bomb tech as soon as I joined. I mean, in the academy, when they asked who wanted to put the bomb suit on and try it on, I was like, I will. So got to try it on. In 2000, I got the chance to get onto the team, and I stayed on until I left. I was bomb squad commander for a few years, but I forgot your question.
Well, so, I mean, how many call-outs would you have, let's say, in a week?
Oh, yeah. So, it's a part-time team. Obviously, we don't have enough calls for a full-time team. So you work your regular job, and then if you get a call, you respond to that call, and you go to it. So it just depended. Honestly, 1 month you could have 3 calls, and then the next month you could have 10 calls. Just depended. So, and we'd work every major event, UT football and protests, all those. We were always there working.
President comes to town, lands at McGee Tyson.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
helping sweep the airbase.
Yes.
I don't know if there's such a thing as a typical call out for a explosive device, but give us an example of what a call is like, or an example of a device that you've helped shut down or taken care of.
So a lot of them were just suspicious devices, maybe suspicious backpacks or suitcases. We got those a lot downtown because of the homeless. They'd leave it next to the federal courthouse, for example, and you just have to go x-ray it and check it out and see what it is. Most of the time those were nothing. The one I remember the most, I think, and my wife hears about it every time we go by this intersection, was there was a pipe bomb laying in the intersection right on the little edge, standing straight on its end. And so we took the robot and we handled that. A lot of technology. It's not like you go down range and you cut a cord anymore.
Yeah.
A lot of technology that helps you out.
So your ultimate goal is not to put your hands on the device in the bomb suit.
Exactly.
I mean, you will if you have to, but
You will eventually, just to make sure everything's separated. But yeah, I mean, you've got a robot and you've got technology out there for you.
Yeah, and those robots made by Remotech, they're made in Clinton, right? Or they were.
Yes, the one we had, they were still in Oak Ridge.
Okay.
But the others we've had, we had a great relationship with Remote Tech here in Clinton.
And so these for people who don't understand that in the security world and the DOE, the Department of Defense, there's a lot of these robots out there, and they're manufactured here in Clinton, which is kind of neat because it's our
Yes.
hometown here. So detective, work with gangs, get the occasional call outs for bombs, work the big events. What kind of sparked your interest? So you do that for 26 years?
Yes.
So what sparks the interest? Like, all right, and during this time you're an instructor at Walter State, correct?
Correct.
You're working with UT. You've been to the FBI's hazardous materials course and doing a lot of different things. What sparks the interest? Like, okay, I'm ready to move on into, and why teaching? What was the spark for that? Like, I want to be a high school teacher because that's you're going from a very at times dynamic tactical environment to a very dynamic environment in a school, which is that, but it's different. So what was that spark for you?
I liked instructing at the police department because I'd go out and teach neighborhood groups, schools, some high school and middle school kids, but I just enjoyed that, which is kind of weird because in high school I was terrified to speak in front of anybody. So that's what I always tell my students. I'm like, I was just like you. So, but look where I am now. So,
Yeah.
but I always wanted to teach. I originally wanted to teach math years ago, and then I realized that they changed math so much that I didn't like it. So I no longer wanted to teach math. So I actually got a chance. Miss Melton was doing the, interim teaching for criminal justice at ACCTC, and she called me and wanted me to come up and do a guest speak. So I came up and I talked to all of her classes, and the kids liked me. I liked the kids, and then Mr. Harrell took me on a tour around the building, and I was like, this place is awesome. I didn't know this thing existed.
Yeah.
So, because I'm from Knoxville, so I'd never even heard of the place before then. So I told him, I said, if you have an opening, call me. I'm ready. So I was retirement time. I mean, I could leave in a day if I wanted to. So he calls me about a week and a half later, maybe, I think. And so that's history. I got to have this job.
Yeah.
Best job in the world.
And I don't know if you know this, but Mr. Harrell and I had talked to some of the students after you came in to guest speak, and several of them were like, he needs to be our next teacher. Like, he needs to. So, I mean, the students were recruiting you, and then another cool tidbit of information, your partner at the time, he calls me that I went to high school. So you're still at KPD, and your partner, he's a year younger than me. You're 2 younger than me. Went to Anderson County with him, and he calls me, and I'd heard from this guy like 20 years. He's like, if you don't hire Jim Quick, you're a fool. I mean, you're a fool. And I was like, well, the kids like him, but I've got his resume, and it was just everybody you talk to in the law enforcement world is like, if you can get Jim Quick, like he's the man to teach that criminal justice program. So that's awesome.
I'm glad it happened.
Yeah. Well, we're stoked to have you. I mean, you do a great job. So, all right. So now you're teaching criminal justice. So let's get into the meat of that. What is, for a student, a parent, a community member, and they know what criminal justice is, maybe, but what does that look like? How many levels are there of criminal justice? Well, and I guess we can take these question at a time. What concepts do you cover? How does that look if I'm a student that goes through the entire criminal justice program? What does it look like on the front end, and what does it look like when I leave the program? So,
Okay.
what does it look like as a freshman coming in with a CJ1 class?
So CJ1, Criminal Justice 1 is the basics. So you're going to learn history of law enforcement. They just got through doing a timeline this past week where I actually let them grade themselves and grade the other teams. And so it's a history of law enforcement from as far back as they wanted to go. If they wanted to go back to Egypt and the Roman times, they got to do that timeline. So this week we're studying Constitution and Amendments, which I think is the most important part of my class. If you never go into anything criminal justice, you need to know your rights. And that's what I told them yesterday. I said, you need to know what the government can do and what the government can't do, honestly. So in the Bill of Rights is where you're going to learn that and where you get those rights from. And then we'll talk, we'll go into corrections, where we'll probably take a field trip to Brushing Mountain Prison. We'll take a courthouse visit to watch court proceedings for the day. So they'll learn about the courtroom working group and what goes on in a courtroom. And then they will kind of ease into what they're going to learn in Criminal Justice 2, which will be the next higher level up. CJ1's known as the most hands-on. I got to try to make it interesting because it is. You got to learn the basics before you move on to the next level.
So you get into CJ2. They get into CJ2. They've learned about the amendments, the Constitution, court proceedings, the criminal justice system, the history of it a little bit.
Right.
I will say, being in your class many times, that it's never a normal classroom experience. It's always there's always something cool going on. Working in groups, doing hands-on things, maybe not as much as they do in criminal justice 2, but so when they get into criminal justice 2, the projects, the investigations, what's that environment like in the classroom? Because everybody knows the classroom where you've got desks in rows. In our building, your classroom, there's big tables, you've got a training simulator, you've got computers, you've got crime scene kits. So talk about some of the projects, some of the things that they'll do in CJ2.
So Criminal Justice 2 is my favorite one to teach because it's the most hands-on. I think most people, including me, if you put something in my hands, I'm going to mess with it, I'm going to learn it. If you sit there and talk to me, I'm going to learn some of it. But if you put me in that environment or you put something in my hands, I'm going to learn it. So there's a lot of technology in my classroom that you probably won't see in a lot of other classrooms. We have a training simulator where you put them through scenarios and they have to de-escalate and they have to talk to the screen basically and try to solve whatever scenario it is. I've got Xboxes, which there's tons of simulators on there. 911 simulator, patrol simulator, prison simulator, a lot of investigative games. I've got Oculus goggles with similar games like that on there. So, like I said, I believe if you put them in that environment and you put something in their hands, they're going to learn that, right? So CJ2, they learn traffic stops. They learn handcuffing. They'll learn more crime scene stuff. They'll start working crime scenes where they actually get to take fingerprints, take DNA samples. They'll do all the paperwork, which they hate, but you have to do it. So they'll do the crime scene sketches, and they'll get to work with the simulator again, trying to de-escalate situations and maybe using a taser, maybe using pepper spray. It just depends on the scenario and how they are. So they'll work car accidents. It's just, I usually take my CJ2 class to Alcatraz. So Alcatraz is a museum up in Pigeon Forge, and it talks about not only the the big prison Alcatraz, but also it will. There's all kinds of things in there for crime scenes and forensics, etc. And like I said, it's my favorite one to teach because you actually get to see them do the job.
Yeah. And it's amazing from my standpoint over the years. You see students that may not do well in a traditional environment. They may not do well in an English class. They may not do great in algebra, but you put them in a more of that dynamic situation during a traffic stop, and they're coming up and asking questions and maybe placing and they do a lot of them do really good. They're really good at it, and I guess it just shows that people have different skill sets and different talents.
It does.
And I guess that's the value in career and technical education is we're trying to reach all students because all kids are gifted at something, and that gives them the opportunity. So, criminal justice 3. So that's more forensics based, right?
It is more forensics, more investigations. So and some of this I actually turn over to the students. So I've got a ton of kits in my closet, handling everything from DNA, ballistics, fingerprinting, shoe prints, tire prints. So the students have to pick a kit. And when we cover that during that week, they've got to lead that demo. So they've got to actually lead the other students and kind of step out of their comfort zone, because a lot of students don't like talking in front of people or things of that nature, but I haven't ran into any that really have had any issues yet. But yeah, so we'll learn DNA, we'll learn more crime scene processing, a little more advanced crime scene processing, where they're actually comparing fingerprints after they've taken it from a jar or a bottle. They'll do DNA samples. I'll have somebody from TBI lab come in and talk to them. I've got the medical examiner coming in and talking to them, just how they do autopsies and how they do that investigations after a dead body's found. So
Yeah.
It's a fun class. Like I said, there's a lot to do in there. It's more technical though, so if it's not like putting handcuffs on somebody. I mean, you got to know a little science and a little math to do some of these forensic kind of kits.
Well, and I guess the cool thing about the criminal justice field in general is you know, I think a lot of students come in out of 8th grade as freshmen and they think, you know, I don't want to be a police officer or I don't want to be an attorney, and you know, but there's so many different. You've got forensics, you've got the CID people, you know, you've got you do have the attorney route, you've got, you know, sheriff's deputy patrol officer. You've got all the different federal agencies. You've got security forces, like at an Oak Ridge at a DOE facility.
There's hundreds of career fields within criminal justice.
Yeah, and I think you do a good job of trying to expose them. I know last year you had TWRA come in. You know, I mean, we've got I'm an old country boy that likes to, you know, hunt and fish, and so you've got that kid in there that's like, you know, I think I may want to be a wildlife officer. So as they're going through the criminal justice program, do they have an opportunity to earn any kind of college credit as they're going through?
They do. So we do have a dual enrollment agreement with TCAT Jacksboro, where TCAT Jacksboro is more of a corrections class, but as I'm teaching, they're gaining credit for that TCAT class. And so it's great. So if they go on to take that corrections class at TCAT, they've already got a lot of hours under their belt. And even if they don't go to TCAT, what I explain to them, even if you're going to, like say, Roane State for criminal justice or another college for criminal justice, when you put that on your resume that you've got 180 hours of TCAT training, criminal justice corrections, that still looks good on you. Or wherever you go, if you go to Anderson County Jail, and you've already had, you know, 180 hours of corrections training, that kind of goes a long way and helps them out. So.
Yeah, shows a potential college or employer that they're committed to that path.
Yes.
Absolutely. So we talk, we use a lot of acronyms in education. We say CTSO all the time, which is Career and Technical Student Organization. So what is that? What is that in criminal justice?
So we're part of Skills USA. So it's a international organization. We'll go down. In fact, Thursday we're going down to TCAT Harriman and actually participate in regional competitions. So we will, my 3-person team will actually get to go down and do a crime scene. I got like 15 minutes to work a crime scene, do all the paperwork and everything. So it's a crazy day, but it's good experience for them. And if they place within the top 3, they may get to move to state, which will be down in Chattanooga in April. So it's fun for them. They get to actually compete against other students, and they really get into it, and they really like it.
And there's also you have a drone component to your class. I mean, drones are everywhere. I mean, they're not just in New Jersey. I mean, they're in Tennessee as well. But talk about what you're doing with drones in your program.
So right now I have 2 drone classes. I have the regular drone class, which is the unmanned aircraft systems in law enforcement, and basically teach them how to fly the drone, what jobs you can get with drones, which is increasing every day. And then I teach them how to take and pass their Part 107 drone test.
Which is from the FAA.
Correct. And then we've had 3 students now take and pass their drone test. So they're drone pilots.
And they're certified by the FAA.
They are. And
before they leave high school.
Go work and make money flying a drone. I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah. And what have you been doing that a couple of years now?
4 years, I think.
Okay.
Right? So as soon as I got my license, as soon as we got the drones.
So it's a pretty tough test. I mean,
it is.
Yeah.
It's 60-something questions. You got to make a 70. It's everything from weather to airspace to a lot of regulations. There's a lot on that test, and we cover a section every week. This week we're talking about weather, and it's boring, but it's something you need to know, especially if you're going to fly anything up into our airspace.
Yeah.
And then we also have a drone racing team. So it's a small team. We just did a simulator challenge, in fact, and one of our students won. So they came in first. Lenore City came in second. Ross View came in third. So our guy.
So we came in first.
Our guy won.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, that's awesome. So is there any other, in the law enforcement field, it's quite a bit different, but is the FAA certification, is that's the premier one in criminal justice that they can get, but what other certifications could they earn in there?
So they can get OSHA 10, general industry, public safety, which really it's not a hard one, but it just takes a little effort on their own to do that one. They can also, we're working on Narcan. We're working on with the nursing program to get a Narcan certification. And we're looking at some other possible certifications that they can get while they're in there that kind of fit the field.
Yeah. Tying, I guess, that back into your industry, is Narcan, is that something that, is that standard that all police carry now? Or,
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
Yes, well, at least in our agency, everybody got issued Narcan. Didn't matter what your job was.
Gotcha. Well, I guess we're kind of getting to the end of it here. So I guess before we close out, if you were to give one piece of advice to a student who wants to enter the criminal justice field, or that wants to maybe take your criminal justice program, or leaving and going into the CJ field, what would that piece of advice be?
As far as going into our classes, like I said earlier, it doesn't matter if you're going into criminal justice or not, especially CJ1. There's things in that class that you need to know as a person, as a citizen of this country. And you need to know why a police officer does what he does. or maybe why a corrections officer does what they do, or why a lawyer may represent the prosecution or represents the defense. There's just there's a lot of information in that class, especially that just I think everybody needs to know. And then your rights, again, your rights in the Constitution are just above everything. So take it. It's fun. It's a fun class. It may not be for you. It's not for everybody. I think most of the students love it. So I think if you talk to students, which hopefully later on in some podcasts we may bring some students in and maybe talk to them.
Yeah.
But it's a good class to take, honestly. And of course I'm a little biased. Sorry. But if you want to learn how to fly drones, if you want to get your license, that's good money. And it's fun too. Like I say, I always say I get kind of embarrassed that I get paid because I fly drones, I put handcuffs on people, and I'm like, and I get paid for this. So as far as going into criminal justice, make sure, do something you like. And I don't care what job it is. Do something you like to do, because if you like to do, it doesn't feel like a job. You know, this doesn't feel like a job to me. I love this job. I like being at school. My wife thinks I'm crazy because when everybody else is celebrating snow days and summer and the spring break, I'm like, 5 more days I get to go back and teach. So do something you like to do, and it doesn't really matter the money, really. You could have $1 million job that you hate, or you could have a job that you love and make $60,000. But you'll like that job. You'll like coming to work every day. So find something you do. Police work is not for everybody at all. So in our academy class, we had a guy in our academy class, and he lasted a week because he was like, well, I didn't know this is what law enforcement was like. I'm like, do you never watch TV? So yeah, find something you like. There's a lot of career fields in criminal justice. So if you don't want to be a police officer, there's a ton of other things that you can try. And we can help you, guide you to that path, hopefully. The tough part about our class is, you know, like if you weld, when you leave high school, you can go weld. Well, doing criminal justice, if you want to be a police officer, you have to wait till you're 21. So that's like 3-year gap there. So, but you can be a corrections officer at 18. You can do, you can go to school. You can do a lot of other things in the interim to kind of get you ready and push you in that direction.
Well, I know a lot of municipalities, a lot of police departments, sheriff's departments, if you go that route and work in their corrections, you know, you're kind of when you turn 21. And why is that 21? Is that because of the post certification?
I don't really know.
Don't know.
I know there was a reason for it. I'm sure maturity has something to do with it. I don't know. I started when I was 25. I think I'd been through enough of my life where I was kind of at that mature level. So I'm sure maturity has something to do with it, but I don't know the exact reason why it's 21.
But a lot of departments, if you start on that correction side, they will move you over to the other side once you hit that age.
Sure,
and go
absolutely.
through the academy.
And I didn't get to work corrections, and I really didn't want to when I back in the day. But honestly, what I tell the students, that's the best place to learn if you're going to be a police officer and be a patrol officer, because you're in that jail and you're just you. You don't have all those cool things on your bat belt. It's just you and your voice most of the time. And your ability to de-escalate, your ability to handle and talk to people. So as far as learning to communicate and de-escalate, corrections is amazing to start out with.
Yeah.
And some people love it. They'll do it for their whole career. And then some people want to move on and do patrol, do detectives, whatever it is. Yeah. But like I said, do something you love. So just
it's great advice.
there's nothing worse than spending 20 years, 30 years at a job that you hate.
Yeah.
And you don't want to get up, you don't want to go to work, and you come home, you gripe, and you just eat and go to bed, and it's like, well, get up tomorrow, time to make the donuts. Yeah. So,
I think it's great advice for young people. I think it's probably a good place to end. So,
Nice.
this was awesome. Thanks, Jim.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.